Wise Wednesdays started on April 1st with a humble episode on forgiveness. Between then and now, we've had heart-led conversations on happiness, stress management, relationships, resilience, public speaking, respecting boundaries, self-discovery, mindset, just being, listening, reclaiming your life, intuition, and even food. I would like to thank all my listeners and the guests who gave me their time and trust. It is because of you that we kept going. It is because of you that we kept growing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so, so much.
Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 32 of Wise Wednesdays. My name is Ruqayya Khan, and I am truly honored today to have with us as the guest speaker, Wendy, my coach, from whom I learned mBraining. She is the founder of mBraining, mBraining Me. She's the first mBraining trainer in the region. She's an NLP expert. She is a mentor, a coach, a light, a beautiful listener, and a storyteller, and somebody I really am fond of. So please do excuse me if I get super excited today. Wendy, I cannot tell you how happy I am to have you today with me. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you. So as if you're new to the page and if you're new to the platform, please do support the platforms with a like and a subscribe. And also, these are conversations that I've been having since the last 32 weeks. And the interesting part is each time I have a speaker on board, they select what they'd like to speak on. And when I suggested and had this conversation of, Wendy, would you speak on Wise Wednesdays? She said yes. And I was super excited that finally we get to share about mBraining on this platform, which is using your multiple brains. So Wendy, tell us a little more about yourself, about the topic. Yes, over to you.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is happening. Okay, so I discovered mBraining back in 2014 after being an NLP trainer for lots of years and really sort of taking NLP into absolutely everything that I do. I got to the stage and I thought, oh, what's next? And I heard somebody talking about the intelligence of your heart and your brain and your gut brain, and that there are neurons firing in these different areas. It's like, whoa. So when I actually received the information about that program, I've always been one of these people that before I sign up for something, I have to research, find out who is the trainer, what's this all about. I literally just found myself signing up, paying the money, I've got to do this. So it was the first time I'd ever done that. And, it's like, okay, mBraining, what's that all about? So I rocked up for day one of the program, and there's a book, mBraining, How to Use Your Multiple Brains to Do Cool Stuff. And it's sitting on the table waiting for me. And I just wanted to say, can we pause the program for about a week? I need to read this cover to cover. I want to just absorb it. So yes, by day 4 of the program, I was totally hooked, and I signed up for trainers training. I think it was 2 months later. I flew over to the UK to know how to train this stuff, because it is just so powerful, and I'm loving it.
Absolutely powerful, because I remember 2016 was when I did the course with you. It was a 4-day program, and there was lots of learning. Got to meet a lot of interesting people as well. But got to understand a lot about passion, about being mindful, about making those decisions from the gut, having strength, understanding. So, Wendy, when we talk about multiple brains, you and I know this, but when to the layman or to people who are absolutely new to this concept, what is multiple brains? When you say we have multiple brains, how to use them? What are these?
Okay, well, if you think of a brain, it's a complex adaptive neural network. So it's got some characteristics that it must have to be able to be called a brain. So it's a brain or an intelligence or a neural network. So we know a lot about the head brain, and we know that neurons, when they fire together, they can wire together and create these neural networks, these pathways. So this is why we start, our thoughts, if you keep doing the same thing again and again, we create a stronger pathway, a stronger connection. So a brain also needs to be adaptive so that it can generate and it can change. And it also stores memories. So as well as the memories in our head, we've got memories in our heart and our gut as well. So a lot of neuroscience is now confirming that we have these complex adaptive systems, neural networks in our heart and also in our gut. And there are a couple more as well, as neuroscience is sort of catching up. So once you realize that, you think about how many thoughts that you have a day, and these neurons are firing and wiring together in your head. When you get curious and thinking, well, actually, that's also happening in my heart area and also in my gut area. So once you realize that you have these different intelligences, you can start exploring how are they working together. And that's really the essence of braining. So if you think about those times when we have these internal conflicts. So your head tells you one thing, but your heart wants something else. And you just get kind of torn, which way do I go? Do I follow my head? Do I follow my heart? And then other times when deep down, your gut is just telling you, it's sending you messages, there's something simply not right. So do we listen to these gut messages coming up to our head, or are we just going with what makes sense? Now, if you think about this, I think a great example is you don't think your way into love. That's a hard job. That your heart tells you, it makes the connection, it gets all excited, and it sort of has all the emotions down here. And what really resonates with me with the mBraining is how we've really become this head-based society. So when we look at businesses, it's all strategies and results and, what's the bottom line? And you're kind of disconnected with the people connection as well. And the other thing that I absolutely adore about mBraining, and I think it also links to NLP as well. Those times when you're learning something new, but it doesn't feel new. It's kind of, well, yeah, I kind of knew this previously, but now I'm being reminded of what I knew somehow. And just tapping into this, there's a lot of links with mBraining, taken back to ancient wisdom. So talk about, the three souls, the mind, body, spirit. There's a lot of references about these three entities. So it's kind of taking us back to how things should be or how things used to be. And as we've evolved, we've kind of moved away from connecting with these other intelligences. So it's so many layers of fascinating stuff. But yeah, I think this is why it fascinates me so much. With NLP, I remember the first time I really got to understand NLP, and I remember feeling frustrated, thinking, why did they teach me this at school? Because this is communication skills, but it's kind of internal communication skills, how you communicate with yourself. And we know that NLP is the essence of NLP is based on modeling excellence. So how some people are really successful and brilliant at what they do. So that's how NLP came about. And the question was asked, if we could identify how those people, what they how they think, what goes on. So what do they see? What do they hear? What do they feel? What do they say to themselves? So breaking down their strategies. And then if we can identify those strategies, if we were then to apply those strategies to ourselves, could we do the same thing and get the same results? And we know with NLP, the answer is yes.
Yes.
The exciting thing about mBraining, there were two NLPers that had studied NLP, and they were behavioral modelists as well. So Grant Zusalu and Marvin Oka, they are the co-authors of the book and the co-founders of mBraining. They asked the question, well, okay, NLP is great, but it's very much based on our modalities, what we see, what we hear, what we feel a little bit, and what we say to ourselves, so the self-talk. And they got curious and thought, well, what about smell and taste? These other two modalities. And this is where Grant, who just consumed so much research, and he started picking up on the research papers, the neuroscience findings, because smell is linked to our heart and taste is linked to our gut. Yeah. So simply by exploring those other two modalities, and the more, there's been lots of books and articles written about the intelligence of the heart. The heart is the second brain. And if you're curious about the heart, go and check out heartmath.org, because they do amazing, amazing research all about the heart intelligence. And with mBraining, what Grant and Marvin did was they shared mBraining with these different, with HeartMath, with different entities to sort of get, there's lots of interviews from available on mbraining.com. So a lot of the research is up there, a lot of the interviews are up there. So if you're interested in all of that side of it, then go and explore that. But also the research about the gut being the second brain. And so Grant and Marvin actually realized that nobody is putting these three intelligences together. So that's really how mBraining came about, and being behavioral modelists and a lot of action research as well. So it was tried and tested, and they developed what we call the mBIT roadmap. So it's a process of how you can do it, but it's really kind of listening into language as well, because you get so many clues from people on how they are using their head, heart, and gut simply by the words and language that they use. So, Rukia, I know we're due for a heart-to-heart conversation. So just thinking about that, and it's like, oh, yeah, wearing our heart on our sleeves. What's this about? Being warm-hearted or cold-hearted. Also, somebody wrote me a message today and wanting to thank me from the bottom of their heart. So not just their heart, but it also gives more clues as to whereabouts in their heart. So
feeling heartbroken.
Absolutely. Yeah, you start thinking, I know now, so listening to lots of love songs, the message is there. It's just like, oh yeah, heart, heart, heart. So yeah, a lot of words, phrases, metaphors that we use give lots of clues, give you the heads up. Yeah. Getting ahead of the game, a head start. All of the words and language, and the gut ones are interesting. So when you've got a big decision to make, you want to chew on it for a while. You want to digest some ideas. So
or you could just have butterflies in your stomach.
Absolutely. So that I love linguistics. So the linguistics and the language has always fascinated me. And I think sort of being an NLPer and being a coach for lots of years now, I'm fascinated with people and the words and language that they use. Because yes, they might use words that maybe I use, or perhaps slightly different words. But what do those words mean to that person in that context? I mean, it's all just so fascinating. How are they structuring their experience of their world underneath the words that come out of their mouth. So yeah, oh, I love it. Love it.
You
love
could
it.
go on forever. So thank you for sharing all of that. So, and before we move on to the questions, I'd like to first say hello to our listeners. We've got Vidya who's watching. We've got Judith watching from Bahrain. We've got Vidya from Bangalore watching us. We've got Brian watching. He says, hi all. Cindy watching from the US. And Cardella. Yes, Cardella watching us from the UAE. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions on mBraining, on multiple brains, how do you use this? How do you understand it better? Where can it be put into effective use? How could it influence relationships? Anything at all that comes to your mind, anything that you have as a question on top of your mind, you might want to share and ask us. Gaurav is watching as well. Hi, Gaurav. So these are my regular listeners, and I'm so happy that you guys have tuned in. Thank you, guys. So Judith has a question. He says, how to use multiple brains?
How to use it.
Yes. And he says, I think, and he adds, or how to manage if it works differently for same emotions.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's becoming aware of these multiple brains. And in mBraining, we kind of give each of them a different job description. So the job description of our heart is to feel, to connect, to emote. It's also our values live at heart level. So what's truly important to us, and then connecting, relating to other people. So relationships are usually, and you know this, some people you just connect with, and other people you don't. So linking back to the reference I made earlier about heart math, we have this electromagnetic field coming from our heart that can actually be felt up to 6 meters away. So I'm sure you've all experienced those times when somebody can walk into a room and they can just suck all the positive energy out of the room. Yeah, so that's their electromagnetic field. This is how we pick up on other people's, that energy, that vibration, that, yeah. And the other, go on.
And on the other hand, my children tell me I have Baba sensors, which is when he walks into the room, I know he's there. And it's not even just about the room. It's kind of like, even if we're at a mall and he said he'll join us later, I'm the one who first picks him up. I mean, like literally tracks him. So the kids say, Mommy, you've got Baba sensors. And I'm sure they'll laugh their heads off when they hear me say this. But that's also the
Oh, you're breaking up on me. Or I'm breaking up on you. Rukia, I'm not sure if it's your connection or mine. Okay, I just want to check in if somebody could write a comment if they can hear me. I thought you'd lost both of us. Okay, so it is a meditation. Okay, I think it might just be me. So if somebody could just let me know, give me a quick comment if you can hear me. Brian, great to have you on board, another mBraining professional. Excellent. Okay, so I'll carry on talking to myself. So what else can I tell you about mBraining? Yeah, I was talking about the heart, the job description of the heart. So when we think about what does it our head brain does best, and we know it's absolutely brilliant at analysing, judging, and criticising absolutely everything. So I know we all have this internal voice. Mine kind of lives over here, which is either helping us, or it's either supporting us or sabotaging us sometimes. So when we look at the head brain, what would be the key responsibilities or job description of the head brain? Well, first of all, it's making sense of things. So it's really good at logic and reasoning. And it's also great at, collecting data, analysing things. It's also our perceptions. So how we are perceiving things, but also we do have the ability to stop and consider how other people's perceptions might be different from our own. What our head is absolutely brilliant at is creativity. So considering options and possibilities, ideas. So to get your head working effectively is to pull it back to doing its key job description, which is easier said than done. Okay, so now going down to the gut, what's the job description of our gut? Well, first of all, it's got that whole job of digesting food and stuff. But what we call the prime functions, if you like, of the gut. Number one, it's your identity. So it's who you deeply are. And what I found really fascinating is the research around when we are forming in the womb, we start off and we form a tube. Now that tube, one end will become our mouth, the other end becomes our waste disposal unit. So that is forming before the heart and before the head brain. So when I like to think of it, of course, it's where our identity sits. Yay, she's back with us. So, our identity lies deep down in our gut. The other thing our gut is really good at is safety, protection, and knowing when to move forwards and when to move away. So it's kind of our built-in alarm system, if you like. Its number one priority is to keep us safe. So that movement as well, self, not self, what to absorb and take in and what to pass through. But action comes from our gut. So I don't know about other people on the call today, but how many of us procrastinate? I certainly do. When we know what to do at head level, it's really important to us at heart level, and yet we don't take action, is because we haven't engaged at the gut level. So how do we use these between us? Well, first of all, we have to stop and understand what they're currently doing. Are they each doing their job description? So it's a bit like if you have 3 people, you can lock them into a room together, and there will be ways that they can work effectively, and there are ways that they can work ineffectively. So we have this whole, I think there's 5 key ones of how they can not work effectively. So, what are those constraints of them not aligning and working together? So number 1 is to become aware of what they should be doing. And number 2 is to start noticing what they are each doing. So are they working together, or are they working individually or separately? Is one taking control, quite often the head brain? Is one of them just shut down and not engaged at all. So then mBraining actually teaches you how you can then connect with each of these intelligences and getting them aligned and working together. So it's, that's a 4-day course. Rukia, how much time do we have left? I don't know that I can give.
No, we do have half an hour more.
Yeah, but
are you going to condense it into a half an hour and present it?
That's a big call. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, first of all, what I can do is I can share with you and give you the biggest tip is to get into the right state to be able to even access your head, heart, and gut. So if that's something that's going to be useful, I'm very happy to share that.
Yes.
It depends on what else Rukia wants to ask me and what other questions come up. But if you'd
there are other questions that have come up. We've got Junith who says, intuitions come from the heart or the head?
Ooh.
And on the contrary, my question was going to be, how different is intuition from gut feeling? So there are two questions. Two questions here.
Remember, going back to what I said earlier, different words have different meanings from different people. So for me, I think one of the most common ones is to have this gut feeling, this gut sense or gut instinct. The difference between instinct and intuition. Instinct is more about survival stuff. So fight, flight, freeze. This is the protection kicking in. So intuition is more that deep sense of knowing, maybe not knowing specifically or details, but just knowing deep down when something isn't right. So that would be more of a gut instinct in my model of the world. From heart to heart instinct, I'm not sure. For me, it's more of a deep feeling. So feelings are more heart-based and instincts are more gut-based.
Okay. Yeah. So the question is here on intuitions. Intuitions come from the heart or the head?
Well, for me, they come more from the gut, but it depends, what that word intuition means to you. So I'm not going to say it could be all of them, depending on the language that we use. I mean, they all have these brains, so they all have this ability to communicate with you. One of the fascinating things, I think it's 80% of communication is uphill. So our gut and our heart is sending all of this information uphill. Do we actually tune in and listen to it? I'm not sure. Okay. So that's really where mBraining comes in and gives you lots of tools to be able to do that.
So you mentioned something about being in the right state to listen. Yeah. Tell us more about that.
Okay, well, if you think about it, when you wake up in the morning, you're all nice and relaxed. And then you think about the day ahead and you get all stressed. And you might stop during the day and take a break and then you relax again. So we're pretty much like a pendulum. We just swing from stress to relax and back again. So the best way to connect with yourself is to find that balance. It's to find that space in between. So where you're not relaxed and you're not super stressed. So the quickest and easiest way of getting into that space is by taking conscious control of your breathing. So if you think about our breath really dictates our state. So thinking about athletes, they want to get their energy up. So how do athletes breathe? A lot of focus on that in-breath to pull them into that sympathetic mode. Yeah, so they want that high energy. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, think about people who are depressed. There's a lot of focus on the out-breath, which pulls them into that parasympathetic, pulls their energy down.
Yes.
we want to get into that in-between state, that balance. So when it comes to breathing, it's really whatever your in-breath is, do the same out-breath. So if you breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. Yeah, so the optimum is actually 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. And that took me quite a lot of practice to get to that stage. So it's finding your comfortable spot, but then stretching that breath. And I think it also makes a huge difference to do it in one breath. So, you know, it's very different if you go. It makes a difference if you hold your breath. So there are lots of breathing techniques, and for anybody who does yoga or meditations, you already do different breathing techniques. So the balanced breathing is deep and even in terms of in-breath and out-breath. The other important thing with balanced breathing is location. So location, a lot of clients that I work with, it's like stop and take a deep breath. So let me ask you, take a nice deep breath in. Do it now. So you can see her shoulders go up, and then
Yeah.
So this is so typical, because if you look at a baby, where does a baby breathe? Where's the location of that breathing? It's way down in their belly. So, you know, we are born as really good breathers. And then as we go through life, we grow up and we stop breathing down to our belly, and it comes up to our chest. Yeah. So focus on the diaphragm, that space in between. You know, you've got, you've got your respiratory system and your digestive system. Your diaphragm are the two muscles that massage in between there. So drawing that breath in down to your diaphragm, or even lower. But if you're a chest breather, to start doing belly breathing is quite a big shift. But start with the diaphragm. And something else that I'm reminded of when I started doing this balanced breathing is that when I was growing up, my mum always told me to breathe in when we're having photos taken to look slimmer. But if you breathe in, it doesn't make sense, because you breathe in, you're inhaling oxygen, which is going to make you bigger, not smaller. Mm-hmm. So when you breathe in, your diaphragm should get bigger. And when you breathe out and exhale, it then contracts. So, you know, it's the location of the breathing, it's the evenness of the breathing, but it's also allowing yourself to fill up and absorb that oxygen, absorb that breath, and then release. So, yeah, that was quite an interesting one. But if everybody wants to experience that, just stop and take 5 deep and even breaths now.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, are we ready?
Yep.
So let's start with a nice deep and even in breath. And out. So it's finding the pace that works for you. And in. And just check the location. Are you breathing down to your diaphragm or belly? And out. So it's finding the right pace for you. And just notice what happens after a few breaths. For some people, they get really quite giddy. Like, woo, not used to taking oxygen. And for other people, they just really notice that it's like it gets them out of their headspace and brings them back down and to connect with their body. So, Rukia, how is it for you?
It's good.
Thumbs up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So even practicing that makes a huge difference. So I just take a couple of deep and even breaths. driving on Shakeside Road where you've got these crazy drivers, love Dubai for this, and usually that would get me into stress mode. But now I just taking a breath and let it go. And it's another kind of reframing. It's like, oh, they're in a hurry, just let them go. So before an important meeting, I would just stop and take a couple of deep and even breaths. Before each and every client I work with, I stop and take a few deep and even breaths. It brings me helps me connect with me, but it brings me into now, gets me out of my head with all of the, my to-do lists, and I must do this and I must do that. And it just kind of gives me a moment to just reconnect.
So you know that I speak about the smile strategy, right?
Yes.
So the very first alphabet there is S, stands for silence the mind. So when I do my webinars, and obviously now we're doing a lot of it virtual, it's important for me to kind of bring everybody's attention literally to the room and in that little space. And I have very limited control over, who pays attention, who doesn't, who interacts and who doesn't. So we do this as part of the silence the mind process.
Absolutely.
So identifying where the breath is coming from, and then hold, breathe. So and most of the time by then people have kind of cleared their minds. They weren't focusing on anything else, and they're ready to kind of start with the program. And that's how I've been applying the mBraining learning.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Yeah, I know as a trainer, I've been in the world of training for lots of years. And, I used to start training sort of very upbeat and energetic because, I want my students to feel alive and awake, and I have to go there above and beyond. So it'd be like, good morning, everybody. And now I do it differently because I really want them to get out of their head, not sort of ramp it up. And it's like, okay, take a breath. Good morning, everybody. So it really impacts my energy. I want to come down and meet my students, my audience at the same level, and then lift them up with me, rather than me coming in up here, them feeling down here, and it's a mismatch. So yeah.
Plus also it also creates a level of rapport where you are, everybody's breathing at the same level. There's this energy in the room that's vibrating at the same frequency. So definitely makes a difference. Dale watching all the way from the US, and he says, good for resetting the brain for me. So I believe Dale and Junith did the breathing exercise with us. And so we're getting feedback on that.
Yeah.
So, yes. Tell me more about you. How did you come upon personal development? Tell me a little more about you as the person.
Me as the person. Okay, well, I moved to Dubai back in October 2000. So it was a very different Dubai that I arrived to. And I had an uncle who lived here, and he was really my stepping stone, because I don't think I would have come to Dubai if he hadn't have been here. But I had a cousin flying over to Australia for Millennium New Year's Eve, and he stopped off in Dubai. I was staying with my uncle, and they were saying, well, why doesn't Wendy come here? And at that time I was working in London. I was bored in my job, and it was this time of year when the weather's not great and lots of grey skies and cloudy days and lots of that wet stuff called rain that we celebrate here. And I thought, well, why not? And I couldn't think of a single reason. So I did come. I didn't have a job initially. And so I spent the first few weeks just kind of relaxing. Leaving a job is one thing, leaving your home, your family, your friends, and, just packing up. I hadn't actually seen my uncle maybe once or twice in 16 years. I thought I might not even like him. And I remember I walked through Dubai Airport. I didn't recognize him. He didn't recognize me. So he'd always had a beard or a moustache or something. He was clean shaven. He always knew me with long blonde hair, and I'd have my hair cut really short. So we eventually found each other. And I started in Dubai as hotel training manager at Crown Plaza. And I loved that job. After a couple of years, I was promoted to area training manager for Intercontinental Hotels Group UAE in Qatar. So I had 8 hotels at that time, so 8 general managers to help and support. I supported the training managers in each property. I traveled the Middle East and Africa. I stayed in 5-star hotels. You know, it was a fabulous lifestyle and really enjoyed it. And then end of 2006, I stepped away from corporate and joined Matrix, which my uncle's company, but Carol Talbot had set up Matrix Training Solutions under Matrix Consulting. So, you know, that was just so easy to go and work alongside her for lots of years. And that's why I got into NLP. She was my teacher initially, and then I brought her into Intercon, and she did lots of programs, Oman, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Alain definitely, and even Africa. So, you know, just co-delivering those programs and, you know, coaching on them. And I think it was a total of 35 programs. Yeah, the practitioner and the NLP master practitioner, and also the NLP coach programs. And so for me, going back to, you know, it's when you're learning something, by relearning something, you pick up more. So to deepen your learning.
Yep.
And I think for all of those 35 programs, there was always more to learn, always deepening your understanding. And, you know, hearing something for a second time, a third time, a 15th time, you make new connections. So my neurons were firing and wiring together. So, yeah. So mBraining, set up mBrain Me, which is more a community. So over the last five years, January 2015, I did trainers training. So then I came back and I didn't set up mBrain Me until 2018 January, because by then I'd done quite a few programs. We've got a community of 50 plus people who have been trained, and I do sort of regular practice sessions with them, and we keep in touch, and there's lots of other things happening. And I'd say this year, I've become much more connected globally. So Brian, who I did see on the call earlier, he's on the Global Wisdom calls. So there's lots of practice opportunities at that level. And then at the beginning of going back to March, there was a group of mBraining trainers and coaches, and we all felt that we need to do something. So mBraining is so powerful, but with coaching people, that's usually one-on-one, or you can do small groups. And so mBrainingtheworld.com is a site where there are lots of free mBraining based resources. So there are guided processes, there are meditations, there are activities and things for kids. There are some, Jan Desart did some amazing colouring things, so like breathing and stuff. So some brilliant ones. So it's Grant Susalu said, so the co-founder of mBraining, he said collaboration and community is the way forward. And I'd say I really felt it this year with the mBraining global community. So getting involved more with the global level has been amazing. And you learn so much from other people. So there's coaches, there's trainers, there's master coaches, and then we've got there are 2 master trainers as well. So it's been a fabulous opportunity to just connect a lot more. You know, previously Zoom doesn't work, or no, Skype didn't work for us. Now Zoom has opened up. It's really helped me sort of connect globally.
Absolutely. You have been also running afternoon. No, what is that? Positivity?
Yes.
Yes. So
So
tell
that,
us about.
yeah, that came about when lockdown was announced. So this is what, middle of March?
Mhm.
You know, I'm human first. How did you feel when we first went into lockdown?
A little lost. I'll be very honest, a little lost, but I had a mission that I was working on. So that gave me a bit of grounding, something to hold on to. And I'm happy to announce that I'm coming to the close of my 500 hours of coaching because I'm. Thank you. So, as you know, I often travel and then when I'm away from my desk for trainings and stuff, so I wouldn't have been able to complete these hours had it not been the lockdown. So I said, okay, thank you, lockdown. I shall make the best use of you.
Absolutely. When lockdown was first announced, I'm human first. And I wobbled, you know, when all of my scheduled trainings kind of, okay, postponed, cancel, cancel, cancel. And it's like, whoa, my calendar, my diary just kind of emptied. And I wobbled and thought, oh my God, what's going on? The world's gone crazy. How, you know, this is about survival. And just noticing that it didn't matter what kind of car you drive, materialism just went out the window because we were all down at the same level. We're all in survival. So that was interesting. And, you know, I wobbled and I thought, well, hang on a minute. So I did some mBraining because I use mBraining for myself a lot. And then I remember I woke up the next morning and my gut was screaming at me, do something. And it was really saying, you know, get off your butt, do something to help other people because I have got a massive toolbox of NLP, mBraining, and so much more. And it's like, how many people out there don't have the tools and resources that I have? So it's like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? So I looked at my calendar and I thought, what can I offer as a platform just to help people feel connected? You know, where everyone was stuck in their bubbles, or you know, if you live alone, you live alone.
Yep.
Live with family, you're stuck with your family. If you're in a relationship, it must have been really tough for them because you know you get involved into a relationship or you get married and it's like, well, yes, but it's conditional. It's this person is going to go off to work every day. It's not, you know, I'm going to love you 24/7. So what I did was I looked at my calendar and I thought, right, what can I do? And, you know, I come from England and afternoon tea it's very British. So I thought, right, I'm going to set up afternoon tea, 45 minutes, 3:30 to 4:15. And I just created a post and set up a recurring Zoom meeting. So originally it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I've had people dial in from, you know, family members and friends in the UK, somebody from Canada, the US, Saudi, Hong Kong, Australia, New Zealand. You know, it's just like, wow. And so I'd never know who was going to turn up. So each day, the only rule was we don't talk about the virus, politics, or religion. So what I usually do was sort of welcome everybody, and I would do balance breathing. So, you know, we do a minute or so of balance breathing, and then I would come up with 2 questions. So, you know, positive questions. So it'd be a quick introduction, depending on how many people in the room. So a brief introduction, you know, who are you, where are you, and answer these 2 questions. So, I mean, we're doing it now. We have one today. I have dropped it to twice a week, so now it's Mondays and Wednesdays. I missed the 100th afternoon tea. I've kind of lost track of how many we've done. And it's a great opportunity to log on, bring your own cup of tea, have some positivity, and you know, just feel better. So it
I love
started
that.
lockdown to help people feel a bit connected. And yeah, it continues. We have done 2 live ones. I think there's about 5 of us who are regulars, and you know, we have met up twice to have a live afternoon tea. So, that was, the first one was really interesting because 5 people who've been connecting 4 days a week on Zoom, and then to meet in person with the masks on and socially distance. Very strange. Very strange. So yeah, that's been fabulous. It certainly keeps me sane, and just, keeps those connections going. And yeah, a lot of people are still working from home and working remotely. So it's another opportunity to just stop, have a break. A lot of people just dial in for, we need to breathe. Just give us the breathing. So.
Yes. So knowing you the way I do, I know that you're somebody who will do whatever it takes to help, do whatever it takes for actions. And you'd be surprised. We've spoken of you a couple of times on the show already. In absentia. So for those of you who've heard this before, during my master practitioner, I had this lovely trainer who asked me to lie down on my belly, and then she wiped her feet on my back. This was the lady who did it.
All right, you think you need to put a bit more context on there. You're going through a breakthrough session.
It was my breakthrough session.
To do whatever it took to get you to where you needed to go. So I called you a doormat.
You didn't. It was me who was calling myself a doormat. Remember those pages that we had to write about ourselves? I'd written in 2 places that I was a doormat. I felt like people treat me like a doormat. And it was the breakthrough, it was the breakthrough afternoon, and I just wasn't budging. I was giving all the right answers. I was being a very good student. And my master trainer, Nishi at the time, was again super sweet, but and these guys threatened to even dismiss me as a client. And I said, okay. I mean, I was saying okay for everything and not making that move that I needed to have that aha moment. And so in walks Wendy, and she says, okay, lie down on your back. And I said, okay. And I did. And then she wiped her feet on my back, and she said, is this how you feel when people walk all over you? And it always gives me goosebumps when I say it. I've said it so many times, but it still does.
Yeah.
And I that was the moment when I realized what I was doing with myself. That was the moment I realized no more. Yet I continued to cry there, but I didn't sit up for myself until she said, so what would you like to do about it? I said, what can I do? She said, aren't you going to sit up? I said, can I? And that was like the absolute, I'm dismissing you. I'm taking you away. I'm stripping you of all your certificates. I'm like, ugh. And then I stood up. That's when I sat up for myself and stood up, and I said, no more doormat. And so, Wendy, I can proudly say from that moment onward until now, I have done my best to never let somebody walk all over me. I've held my place of respect, and I am very, very grateful for you. Honestly, I'm very grateful for you.
Yeah.
So do whatever it takes.
Somebody caught me recently and said, when the timing's right, the magic happens. So I was pushing you. I was pushing every button I possibly could because I wanted you to push back. And the moment you started to push back, that's when you stepped into your magic.
And sometimes we are afraid to push back because we feel, are we being rude? Would we hurt the other person? And I think what I took away that day, and even now as you say this to me, is that I realized by not pushing back, you're hurting yourself. You're not owning your space. You're not being honest with yourself. And I think that's a very bad place to be at, and absolutely a doormat place to be at.
Absolutely. I've worked with so many clients over the years, and it's amazing, those beliefs, those little things that they allow that just take over and then become the stoppers or It sabotages them being successful on so many different levels, but it stops them from really sort of loving life and really engaging with living. And that's why I love mBraining, because it's, how are we using these to come alive? How am I doing Wendy today? So how am I putting my heart into this conversation? How am I, your gut is all about courage. So how can I be courageous today? So asking some of these questions, and these are the kind of questions I bring into the afternoon positivity, because it's like, oh, come on, let's be brave. Let's do something courageous. Let's be compassionate. Let's be creative.
True that. When I completed 700 days of my daily live videos, I thought I'd put an end to this. I thought I would kind of, just uh, just 700 days already. I thought, okay, maybe people have had enough of it. I hadn't, but I thought maybe people have had enough of it. So I thought, let me give people a little more value in terms of these conversations that we're having right now. And so that's how Wise Wednesdays was born. April 1st is when we started with my favorite listener, Cindy, who tunes in every time. And I said, Cindy, would you be okay if we just did a little interview? We'd speak about forgiveness. So we started with forgiveness, and Cindy, being Cindy, said, yes, let's do it. And so just random conversation, and that's how it started. And the rule of the game is I pick people from my own platform, from my own circle. So those who are on the page are the ones who come in as guests and speakers. And the amazing conversations we've had. We've spoken right from food to grief to respecting boundaries. Because isn't it the little things that make the biggest difference? As you were just now saying, people allow those little things.
It's the little things that we allow again and again and again. So it's the small things that they just mount up and they become big blockers. So it's the small things that you can leverage, because once you deal with that, once you get rid of that block, it just opens up so much for you.
True. Yeah. So how do you and I'm going to be very mindful of time. So give me 3 questions that a person can ask to connect with the 3 brains that you've just spoken of, to kind of just wake up your mind, your heart, your gut.
Just 3. Okay. So 3 questions for each, or 3 questions total?
You tell me.
Okay. So your heart, So start doing some breathing. Breathe into that area around your heart and ask yourself, what's truly important to me right now, or in this context, whatever it is you're doing. Another good one is, how am I feeling? What feelings are important? Yeah. And also consider if there are other people involved. So is it just you, or other people involved? How are they feeling? So go to head. So breathe up to your head and ask your head, what does your head really want you to know? What are your perceptions? What's making sense for you? I like to ask the head, what are the options and possibilities available right now? In NLP, we did about crisis versus opportunity. So opportunity. Focus on what you can do rather than what's stopping you. So exploring what are the options and opportunities here. And then out of all of those options, come back, check in with your heart. Which of them align best with your values? What's really important? Take it down to gut. So at gut level, even if you just ask yourself, what are 3 actions that I can take? What can I do to move myself forwards? Out of all those options, what's me, what's not me? Consider the risks involved. Yeah, a fabulous one example was a couple of years ago, and I think it was in the course that you did, Rukia, looking at labels that we give ourselves. So by giving ourselves labels, we create boundaries. I am a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm an auntie, I'm a trainer, I'm a coach. But that restricts us, because it's also, I am not these other things. So yeah, it's the boundaries that we create. Fascinating. Fascinating.
Truly, truly fascinating. So thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to type in all of that later on. I'm going to listen to this all over again and type it in. So thank you once again. Thank you for making me understand that I am more than a label or anything that I might have given myself. Thank you for being that person. Thank you for trusting in me that day, pushing me the way you needed to. And yes, thank you for saying yes. I think you have a smiley there somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. And I have mine.
Okay, I also have, this is
The
head.
heart,
This
that's
is
head. Yes, show us.
yeah. This is my gut symbol.
Yes, that's your gut symbol.
But this one, yeah. When I saw you come up with your smile tastic, I thought that is perfect for you because you always smile, and it's one of those lifter uppers, isn't it? You can't look at it and not smile. So
True.
brilliant.
And when I wear this badge, this comes from the Prime Minister's office when I spoke at the Happiness Carnival. So when I wear this, it almost feels like I've worn this suit or I've worn this shield or this new person that I become when I just wear it. So absolutely, just wear a smile makes so much of a difference. So
Yeah.
thank you once again for joining us. Thank you everybody who's tuned in. Thank you for those who will watch us on replay. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the host platform. Give it a like if you're on the Facebook page. And I look forward to seeing you next week with another fabulous guest. Thank you again, Wendy. Good night, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.